and also in the vision of your director, where how committed they are, how passionate they are. And then you pick up on those things, you know. But then you have to, you know what it's like. There are days when you weep in the shower because you don't know what you're going to write. And, you know, it's the just, you know, how many times have you done that? I mean, I know I have. Just stood there and just prayed and thought, how am I going to get out of this? I can't. I don't even know what I'm going to do next. And then suddenly something will come. You know what it's like, Marcello, you know.
Well, we certainly experienced that earlier this year.
Yes. There was plenty of tears.
Yeah.
Never mind. Beautiful tears. Tears of creation.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So what other questions do we have in the arsenal?
Yeah, and also it's important that, you know, nowadays, well, probably all the time, but people that are going to be attending the show, they want to take a selfie, you know, they want to buy a CD, sign it, autograph by you, the T-shirt, whatever. So people want the contact. You know, I mean, you can sell whatever, 100,000 CDs, but people want to see you, reach out to you, take a picture with you.
Yeah, but even the most fragile moment, I hope I'm not saying too much because I don't want to break the spell that happens in the silence when these things happen. But it's that moment where you're sitting at a table and someone walks up to you and they've got, you know, some will have a little piece of ticket or something they found, others will have 500 covers from a CD or something like this, you know.
Yeah.
It's that unique moment where you're just meeting without all of that other stuff, without the CDs and, you know, whatever, just that unique moment where those two energies come into connection. And that it's like, you know, I've often described it, it's like, you know, when ants are blind, you know, and they walk in a line and they touch heads so that they can find their way on their journey. It's something like that. It's very fragile. And that's the thing that's really amazing about when you meet people after the concerts. They're so different. There's so much diversity. You meet every single kind of person on the planet. It's fascinating.
And actually, I know that people were, I mean, the shows in Portugal, people were bringing you gift, like a flower or
I know. And, you know, it's really... It's a trauma because I can't part with these gifts. So I have to go through these extraordinary things to facilitate them and get them back to where I am, you know, and sometimes I can't carry them because it's too, you know, they're too fragile or something. So I have to arrange for this to be packed properly, you know, all this. I can't just shove it in a suitcase, but it's incredible things, the energy that I have around me in my home, just from gifts. I mean, Marcello's been here. From the gifts that my public has given me, I know this sounds a bit sort of pompous, doesn't it, my public? You know, the people that love and have connected with the work, it creates such a warmth. It creates such a warmth, you know. Some of them, I look at them and I think, is this really how they see me, you know? And they'll do some kind of woman with black snakes coming out of her head and sort of, you know, kind of thing. But there's something so... And they give it to you in this beautiful, innocent way, like, you know, here, I painted this for you, kind of thing. I look at that and they say, it's you, it's a portrait of you, you know, kind of thing. And I go, oh, so this is, it's really interesting to see how people see you, you know, because there's some paintings as well. There's lots of paintings, you know, that people give me. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. I mean, I got a cushion from someone recently, like a cover for a cushion. And I looked at it, I thought, what an exquisite flower, you know. And it's so complex, this flower. And then when I turned it inside out, every stitch had been done by hand.
Wow, amazing.
Everything had been done by hand on this cushion. Extraordinary. And this lady just put it in her bag. She said, this is for you. Don't open it now. Take it with you. You know, and I thought, I never even got her email. And half of the people that give you the gifts, they don't, please guys, if you're listening, can you please put your emails on these gifts so I can at least say thank you? You know, because so many gifts just come and, you know.
No, I know what you mean. I'm going to ask some questions that people were posting to the Facebook. They wanted to know, let me see, how did you two meet?
That was interesting.
Actually, the first time Lisa and I met, we just stared at each other and we didn't really know each other. That was, remember? Do you remember that, Lisa?
You said that was at Media Ventures, was it?
Yeah, one day I stopped at Hans Zimmer's studio because I had interned there for a couple of years. And Hans was in the kitchen having lunch or something, and I spoke to him, and I went to the restroom. And on the way back, I saw this woman who was dressed in light blue, and we just stared at each other. And I thought it was a very, very unique moment because we just stared at each other, and I don't know, it was like as if we knew each other, but we didn't want to say anything. And so a few years later, Patrick Cassidy asked me if I could help him because Lisa was coming into town to work on a TV show called Kings. And I had a recording studio in Koreatown. And since I'm always been involved in mixing and producing and recording, they thought that my studio would be an adequate avenue to have Lisa come in and do her thing while Patrick was writing music at his house. And so I remember the moment that that I opened the door and I see Lisa Gerrard and Patrick and his brother Frank. The moment she looked at me, she said, "I know you. I never forget a face." You know, and it was a few weeks later that I actually remembered that moment at remote control, and that I actually connected the dots. And I said, "Yeah, you know, it's funny. We did meet before. We just didn't speak to each other." Mm. So.
Interesting. And then we ended up in a situation. But it was remarkable because we were doing this thing and Patrick had written this piece of music and I'd just come back from Borneo and I noticed that, and we were doing I was doing some singing on the tracks and I realized that my cello had very, very honed engineering skills and technical skills and a good ear, which is even more important. And I was interested, I was interested in his skill set and impressed. And I think one thing led to another and we decided that we should further our, creative journey together if something came up or if it was a possibility or whatever, that we'd do something together, and we did.
And it's funny because at that time when I first met Lisa and in my studio and she came in and she started working on this project, she was approached by a producer and they were looking to do a film about the life of Buddha. And so Lisa said, sure. And so I started making some demos, which eventually turned into Departum. We put some demos together and we sent them in. And then as a result, we were like, okay, well, let's the film was never got financing. But we had these really cool demos and we were like, well, look, we can really up.
And that's when I realized that you had incredible compositional skills. That you weren't only working in the engineering and the technical side of the work, that you were actually a composer. It was because of that project.
So
I wanna share a picture with you guys as well. Give me 1 minute. Can you see my screen?
Oh yeah! Wow.
That picture have gone around the world, so to speak, because a lot of her name is Teresa. She's from Spain and she went to Portugal a couple of times to see your show, right? And then the way that you're looking at her and so forth, it's I don't know. A lot of people have commented on the picture. It's on Facebook, and I wanted to mention her name because she's one of your biggest fans all over the world. You have many.
She's from Zaragoza. Teresita. She's a very sweet lady.
Very nice lady, yeah.
Spoken to her, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Another question. Let me look at my list here. Somebody wanted to know, this is a question for you, Lisa. What can you describe what's happening inside of you when you sing? If anything.
No, it's like it's an automatic. It's something automatic. I can't describe that. It's automatic. I know that if I hear something from the music itself, once I hear the music, there's another part that opens, another gate opens. And it's like I think most people that do anything to the point where they're no longer, it's not to say physically present, because that sounds too esoteric. It's so fast. It's like, I had this, the only way I can describe it is, I had this experience recently, I'll try and keep it very short, where I had a guy who called me who'd just been doing a movie, and it's actually just come out from the MIF thing, and it's a film called Voices in Deep, and he contacted me, and it wasn't anything to do with the film. He just gives me a call every now and again, because I worked with him on another project, West of Sunshine, and to find out how I'm going and stuff like that, and talk and just have a chat, And I got this weird unction that came into my body when I got the call, and I heard him, and I felt this sense of urgency, almost like I was in the presence of something incredibly important. And he said to me, I said, how are you going with your work? And he said, well, my project has been impounded because I've run out of money and I can't pay to have the last thing done on the thing, so they've kept the movie. And something just came in from my heart to my mouth like a pulse, and I said, I'm going to pay for this. I didn't know anything about the film or anything about the story, nothing. But the inclination or the inkling was so powerful, I couldn't stop this. And, that's what it's like when I'm singing. There's a feeling that comes of, it's almost like, not stress, but emergency, like urgency, like a sense of urgency that I can't escape. There's a thing that unlocks, and it's a connection between the music and this abstract thing that's in the creative center of the human, which we all have. It's not unique to me. It's almost like a little bit of stress maybe. And then all of a sudden and do you know what? If you're in the firing line of this electrical thing that happens to me at that time, you're going to burn. You have to let me work at this moment. You can't stop because it's painful for me to stop. Do you understand? And the only way I can describe that is that moment is easier for me to describe because it's practical. Do you understand? It has a practical scenario, so encompassing it. Where the singing itself is so complex because every piece of music is different. I notice that there's some words in the singing that I do that are familiar from other pieces, and I always seem to turn up in the different pieces of music. But most of the pieces of music have their own unique language. And that's not something that I think about. It's automatic. It's not a Holy Spirit thing. It's a soul thing, I think. And it's dimensional, connected to our soul tissue. Some people say, oh, but you're singing in tongues. No, not from the Holy Spirit tongues. It's not, because I pray in the Holy Spirit tongues. I know. So I can discern the difference between these two things. One is a musical instrument, and the other one is a spiritual language. Do you understand? But the problem with me is that because this information comes to me so quickly that, I mean, there's times when I, like this guy, I just want to finish off that thing, that explanation with this man when I said, I will pay for this. And I couldn't stop. It was like I had no power to stop myself. It was like, you know, God was saying to me, you have to do this for this man because I need this work to come out. It was that strong. And I didn't think about it again. I went on tour with Hans Zimmer, and then I got a call saying, oh, you know, we're having difficulty, blah, blah, blah. And then the money went through, and then I didn't think about it again. And then I get a call saying, oh, we're opening up. Do you want to come and see the movie at MIV? He said, I've made you one of the producers on the project. I mean, I did nothing. I gave them a bit of money to get them out of trouble. And he's made me one of the producers on the project, which is just amazing. I can't believe that. But because I really was quite comfortable to be the ghost at the banquet. I didn't need anyone to know about that. But when I saw the film, it's a really hard film to watch because the film is about refugees. And it's a film where these people are running from the horror and running into an even worse horror, taking refuge somewhere else. And this is something that we really need to look at. And we can't keep shying away from it. And our governments can't keep shying away from the reality that our children are being trafficked. There are terrible sex crimes going on in these situations and the worst kind of exploitation. And that's what the singing is like. It's like it has to happen. It must be. You can't stop this. And, you know, often I've said to Marcello, you can't talk to me when I'm doing this, Marcello. And he looks at me like, oh, my God, I'm working with this crazy woman, you know. But it's like, just let me do it. Or don't tell me to do it when I'm not ready. You have to wait until I'm ready. I need to cook the dinner. I need to do some washing. Once my things are done, I'm going to come to the studio and I will sing for you, okay? But not before. And don't start telling me what to sing because I don't even know what to sing. So what, you think I'm going to start thinking about what I'm supposed to be singing when I don't think when I sing? You know, so it's very difficult for people to understand and they think she's a bit mad or there's something wrong with this woman. But I know there are other people out there that it's not an affliction. It's a blessing. It's a beautiful thing. But it is actually quite stressful, which I've questioned many times when people have said to me, oh, but you sound like, you know, I want to hear your voice when you go to heaven and all this kind of thing. I thought if only these people knew what it was like sometimes. I'm not walking around with a couple of candles, you know, and some dreadlocks in a shanty, you know. This is quite a stressful experience because I only have 1 or 2 shots at it and then it's gone. You know, that's like, you know, and the thing is that I know there are other people that will hear that and understand that. But it's that important. And when I saw the director last night, I said to him, I will never doubt my intuition again. And I think these intuitive powers that we have are much more powerful than our practical ability to architecturalize and construct in practical measures. That moment really convinced me when I knew I had to give this guy money. There was no way out. And I'd never even, and it's a huge risk for me because this film could have been about anything. Do you know what I mean? That's the amazing thing. It's that automatic energy that I know I have. I have this and I know others have it. I know that I believe we all have it. I believe we all have it. It's just a matter of whether something provokes you to act and whether you can walk without fear. That's the big one, that you're allowed to have the confidence. Because a lot of, from the time we're born and go through school as children, we're told you can't do that. There's no way you can do that. And sometimes we end up doing something that no one told us we couldn't do by accident because they haven't hurt our confidence there. Do you understand? So we go, I never thought I'd do this, you know, but in some way, if you dig back into the history of this unique individual, it's because that part of them escaped the critique. And that's why encouragement, you know, and love between people, not to sound like an old cliche, but the love and encouragement between people, you know, and that's one of the reasons why I'm relaxed when I work with Marcello, because I know he believes in what I'm doing. I don't have to worry. I mean, I'm not relaxed in the sense of creatively, but I'm relaxed in the sense that I trust that I can be whoever I need to be very, very quickly with him present if he just lets me, because I know he trusts me. I'm not going to have to walk in there and think I'm ended up having an argument with someone or walk away feeling terrible or whatever, because he trusts me. He will eventually go, okay, there you go, there's the piece. You know, and it's difficult for him. It must be difficult for him.
No. And you know, I mean, you sit in a room and you write music, and then Lisa comes in and she does her thing, and it's like, you know, am I really going to say anything after that performance? I mean, she'll nail it on the first go, and you're like, really? I mean, there are times where you'd love to have more. See, if I am guilty of some things, that after Lisa does a performance, I want more, because she does and then she starts to become a bit of a diva, and she'll get up and she'll go back to the kitchen and keep cooking. You know what I mean? And I'm like, give me more. You know, I mean, if it were up to me, I'd have her there for 6 hours giving me more. But, you know, I also happen to be a big fan of her work. You know, I mean, it's come on. I mean, it's Lisa Gerrard. I mean, she'll listen. She'll listen to a piece and just completely obliterated emotionally with her vocals. I mean, you know, it's interesting because I was mentioning this gentleman that when I was back in LA working on this project, and I had one of my good friends and client came over, and he listened to a piece that we have for the new album, The Poetry of Life. And he looked at me and he was just like dumbfounded. He said, how do you do this? I said, I consider myself very lucky, because I'm in the room, I write these pieces, and it happens to resonate with her, and I just sit there and press record. I mean, there's not much to it, you know, seriously. And that's one of the things I love about working with musicians, is that Lisa knows that I'm very much a control freak, you know, because that's why I know how to master and engineer. But when I work with an artist, I've done all the controlling I want to do. When I work with an artist, it's about them. It really is about them, because I've done all the control I can. I mean, I'll mix, I will master, I will get the sonic architecture together so that I do the best I can within my means to sculpt out the beauty of what these artists do. But I'm not there to control the artist. I'm already controlling so many other things that I welcome and celebrate the artist doing their thing without controlling them. And if it so happens that they do something that tears up my composition, well, then so be it. Let me celebrate and support what they've done. Lisa's, we were talking about this before, where I will send a piece to Lisa, and I have an idea of what it's supposed to be musically, and then she'll do something completely off the creative idea that I had, and I will literally rewrite the piece because she's done something so stellar that I'm like, I can't let these vocals not be represented properly, you know? And so that happened very much so in the piece Stories of Love, Triumph, and Misfortunes, where, you know, I had a piece with Bahar Shah, and I thought it was going to be this kind of epic thing, and I sent them to Lisa, and Lisa did this thing that I was like, okay, I can't let go of these vocals. These vocals take precedence over this music. And so, yeah, it's more than trust. It's admiration. It really is, honestly.
Amazing. Another question. This one is coming from Chris Conte, actually. He's saying, any chance to see your performance in Immortal Diamond with Paul Grabowski recording live last October in Melbourne. Do you know if they're going to be creating like a DVD or a Blu-ray?
They have recorded it. They recorded it and it's been filmed and everything. I think that it's coming out in November. I think they're looking at releasing this in November. But I don't think it's like a release thing. It'll just be sort of for some TV shows and, you know, this kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I got it. And a question for Marcello. Feel free to elaborate on the new studio you're sitting right now. How difficult it was to put it together. You moved from Los Angeles to New Mexico, and you are a one-man show, so you need to put everything together while you were working. Plus, you were driving. Plus, you were mastering. I know we talk here is 2:00 in the morning, so we talked several times late at night, and you told me, well, sometimes I go to the studio at night. On a Friday, I come back on Sunday. You know, you just stay until 4:00. You have like a sofa where you sleep. You take a shower, get coffee, and keep on going for another 4 hours, and then eventually you left on Friday, coming back on Sunday. So you are like a vampire. You don't sleep much, man.
Well, the thing is that this work, you know, when you're mixing and producing and recording, there's so much attention to detail. It takes hours upon hours upon hours. You know? I mean, if people knew the amount of days that I spent on Exaudia, you know, going through Lisa's vocals and going through the guitars and the synths and the bass and the percussion. So no one else does it but me. So, you know, I realized that a day is not long enough. And so, yeah, I mean, I was based in Los Angeles for a long time, and I think thanks to the pandemic, if there's one positive thing the pandemic has brought, is that it's taken out the stigma of needing to have somebody in the same room. I had a studio in LA that because of the traffic and the distances in LA, directors would eventually not even come. They would meet me once, and then they were like, well, I can't make it. It's too far in traffic. And by the time I get there, so I would end up uploading files and realize that, you know, I mean, I love Los Angeles, but I wanted to be in a place that was more creatively conducive to what I do. And so I you know, after being in Australia and seeing that Lisa has basically created her own reality, and she lives in a stupendous place creatively, and it's just super inspiring. It brought some perspective into my life, and I thought, you know, I need to find a place that I feel inspired and I feel comfortable in, and New Mexico for the time being is definitely that place for me. So I came here and set up shop, and I'm looking to support the community here and bring potentially some Native Americans into the soundtrack industry, undiscovered people in this area into the sound, and bring some support to some of those communities by doing that. So I think I can be of more service here than I could be in LA. So
good for you.